this computer. All right, welcome to the third episode of the dappcast. My name is Jake Bryan, and today our guest is John. He's working on BOID project, and you can find his website at app.boid.com to find the alpha. And welcome, John. How are you?
Thanks for having me on, Jake. Doing great.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. So I've read a little bit about BOID, so give me your elevator pitch, like how you would tell to people who aren't exactly well versed in crypto.
Exactly. BOID is designed to bridge the gap between the general user and the kind of decentralized cryptocurrency networks. What that means is that we act as like a gateway and a meta platform to make it very simple for anyone to not only own cryptocurrency, but also to contribute computing resources to help run these decentralized networks, which is really what we all are kind of striving for.
Awesome. Well, quick question from my end. How does BOID do that exactly? I understand you just switched to the EOS network. Am I correct?
We didn't really switch. I have been looking at lots of different networks for the past 6 months, and EOS just kind of has the right combination of technology, community support, and a few other kind of magic ingredients. I felt like it's going to be a good home for what I'm trying to build. Specifically, especially around kind of the industrial scale applications that the DPoS is going to allow us to do today, as opposed to waiting for solutions to come on board with other platforms. Yeah.
So BOID itself, I swear, I've heard of it before, at least the concept where you have where you're able to lease out your computational power and it helps certain projects. Are you basing it off of that? And if so,
yeah.
Are you now making the next iteration and incentivizing that?
It's called SETI at Home. So SETI at Home is kind of it was basically the first volunteer distributed science project where you could volunteer your extra computing resources. This has been around since the late 90s. And there's been multiple projects. There's multiple other projects that are similar to SETI at Home, built on the BOINC architecture, the Berkeley Open Infrastructure for Network Computing. And we tap into this kind of existing infrastructure. It's extremely robust. It's extremely mature. And it gets us pretty close to a lot of the stuff that these decentralized computing platforms are trying to build right now, like Golem and Sonum and all these kinds of things.
Right.
But the biggest fundamental difference between what we're doing and what they're doing is that we still have some kind of a centralized validator when they're trying to do kind of decentralized validation using game theory. And but what that means is that it allows us to kind of iterate and scale very quickly, and we can focus on the kind of user-facing branding things instead of spending years working on kind of fundamental technology. And we're just kind of sitting back and waiting to see, which one of these things turns out to actually work. And we're just going to integrate their technology. We're pretty technology agnostic.
Right. No, that's good because ultimately you want to get to your goal as fast as possible, and it really doesn't matter how you get there. It's about getting to that goal and just going with the flow to make sure you end up at the goal. So I'm understanding that BOID is going to have their own token, and people are going to be able to earn money for adding their cryptocurrency power to that. Do people have to enter their EOS accounts already, or how does that work? How are you?
Yeah, I mean, the token is going to be going live soon. Right now the alpha is all totally centralized. We basically keep track of your balance in our database.
Okay.
It's pretty. It's for early adopters only right now.
Yeah.
So, you'll be able to redeem the tokens in our database on the blockchain.
Right.
Yeah.
So are these, since it's centralized, how do these, so why don't we take a little walkthrough of the app, because some of the questions have reference to what I saw in there.
Yeah.
Let's share my screen with you and go. So, all right, here's app.boid.com, the place you need to go. And here I've downloaded the version already, the Windows version already onto my computer.
Cool.
I'm part of, but you want to walk me through this?
Sure. Yeah. You've already installed it. At the top left is your BOID power. You could think of that as like your hash rate in a traditional proof of work.
Right.
The difference is that BOID power encompasses all of the kind of underlying protocols that we support. So you don't necessarily need to think about like how much GPU am I contributing, how much CPU am I contributing, how much storage or bandwidth am I contributing. We just have one number that is an aggregate of those contributions.
Okay.
And that allows us to do interesting things on the leaderboards. For example, it doesn't matter what your priorities are in terms of contributions. Everyone at the end of the day gets compared versus their BOID power. And the BOID power also dictates basically the network difficulty and also how many BOIDs are rewarded, proportionally based on. Okay. The BOID token is basically a way for us to bootstrap the network right now. But it's if you don't care about our token, it doesn't matter. You can run the application and just get paid in Bitcoin, and you don't have to touch any of our economics. We're going to be pretty flexible.
So how does that work? Do you already have those cryptos, or are the teams for the different projects upfronting some crypto or a certain amount of computational power? How does that work?
Well, basically, there's multiple currencies that get mined in the background. Those currencies are traded kind of automatically by our system, and then you can choose to redeem. You can redeem your contributions however you would like. And the whole thing is built using microservices. So over the next 6 months, we're going to take microservice and make it a whole platform will become like more and more decentralized as it matures over time. And by 2020, we'll have our own EOS sidechain, essentially, operate, in parallel with the main net. And we will be using smart contracts basically as like light wallets to confirm contributions on the network.
Oh, very interesting. And so what's the concept of teams? From my understanding, you can invite people and do different things like that.
Yeah. So right now there's only one team, but we're onboarding some influencers that'll be coming on board in the next week or two. And the idea is that each team will have its own economic model for its own, token economics, basically. So, or, kind of like its own prize pool, essentially. So as a user, you have to think about like, well, which one of these teams kind of has the most interesting rewards, or which one do I want to contribute my computing power towards? This just kind of adds, there's two big reasons there is that it enhances competitiveness, especially with having kind of social media influencers running a team and competing against other influencers. And it also kind of increases engagement between individuals on the platform. Okay.
So if you guys use, or if you want to pool together a certain amount of computers, it's better to just go on a team where you're all dedicated to it.
Yeah, exactly. But you're not going to like, a team is basically, if you're familiar with kind of super node blockchains where they have a node where you need to stake a bunch.
Okay.
A team is like another word for a super node. So no, you're not going to be able to just start up a team on your own. You're going to need some upfront capital to stake the BOID tokens. But all that kind of functionality is not going to be implemented till sometime next year. Right now, we're just kind of testing the waters.
Yeah, that's a great idea, especially when it comes to transitioning from proof of work systems to proof of stake, delegated proof of stake systems, because I truly believe that they're going to overtake and just, make proof of work obsolete, but you still have all this computational power that you can use, and you might as well use it for greater computational good and something of use. So wow, that's just amazing. It's all just coming to me, man. It's really cool. I really love what you're doing with your project.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of, like, I'm kind of like an old school proof of work guy. I like proof of work because it allows us to kind of bridge the gap between the physical and the virtual. But I don't believe that proof of work is the future of blockchains. I think it's just kind of the beginning. But the processing power is always going to be there. Processing power is basically the raw resource of cryptocurrencies. So, and everyone has processing power, right? But most people don't contribute to cryptocurrency networks because they don't have technical know-how, right? So make it more.
Sorry, you kind of broke up there.
What part did I?
It's been hard for people to add their computational power to cryptocurrencies because
it's just a technical burden. Most people don't know how, so that's kind of the big problem that we're solving and making it more democratic.
Oh, awesome. That looks really great, man. I really appreciate you coming on today. I have a couple questions before we go on.
Okay.
You kind of answered a lot of them, but I also kind of want to understand, what is the intrinsic value in BOID? So usually when it comes to a utility token, here, let me share with you this really great article that I like to go back to all the time with my white paper clients.
Okay.
Oh, here it is. So there's 4 different things that I'll share this article with you in Telegram just for you to get a look at.
Okay.
Oh, where are you? There you are. Okay. And you come down to the really great part. So usually when it comes to utility token, you need some sort of, especially work tokens that generally act as license, you need some sort of velocity or the limitingness of velocity in order to make it more scarce. So you can have less of it. You need some sort of incentive to hold the token, particularly like a stake, like you would say, like in a masternode network like Dash is. And then there's a need for the token from a holder's perspective. Fork is bad. I don't know. It goes into that. So there's a need for the token, and then fourth, there's a valuation mechanism. So usually it comes along the scale of MV equals PQ. I believe that's up here. So where M is, sorry, it's down here, I think. No, sorry. We go to the first instance, that'll find it. Oh, it's the law of MV equals PQ. Sorry, I had to look this up as well earlier. been a little bit of time since I've seen it.
Cool. Well, I'd love to deep dive with you on it in the future for sure. I definitely am a big fan of Zencash and Decred. That's
Right.
what inspires a lot of the architecture.
I guess my question is, what makes Void useful? Because it's essentially going to be a utility token, and
Yeah.
what are the incentives for holding Void and different things like that? Have you answered those questions yet?
I haven't released a lot of this information.
Right.
A lot of it's going to be in our kind of forthcoming white paper, but I'll say that similar to EOS, where there's a lot of incentives to stake and hold it. There's a lot of things to do on the network with it. Most of our tokens are going to be staked. There's just not a good reason to not stake them.
Okay.
And our network is not the kind of network. There's a lot of these ICO projects where they're like, oh, it's a utility token, but basically they just use it as like a Chuck E. Cheese token on their platform. You put, it's just kind of like people buy the token, use it on the platform, but it doesn't really add any value. So, our network is not like that at all. If you really like what we're building and you want to participate in the decentralized network, the tokens are there to do that. So,
okay. Do you have plans in the future for some sort of token sale, or are you going to do an airdrop, or is it just going to be a mining process?
It's going to be mostly airdrop and mining. There's a possibility for a token sale, but we're still thinking about it. But it's not going to be. It's going to be pretty reasonable. So.
Okay. And how large is your team on it?
It's like less than 5 people, and then we have about 4 or 5 advisors.
Awesome. And I love the project. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Totally.
Do you have any other places or information that people should know before you leave today?
Just go to our homepage, BOID.com, and click around and have fun. And if you click on any of the buttons, you'll pretty much get taken to the app. And the app is where you can try the alpha. So, and join our Discord. There's a lot of fun happening there. People get pretty competitive, so it's fun.
Well, we'll provide the links to those in the description of this video. If you like this episode of dappcast, please like, subscribe, and share. And thank you, and have a nice day. Thanks, John.
Thanks a lot, Jake. Have a good one.